AI Spotlight. And today, with a very special guest, we have Henry here. Henry is tuning in from London. Hi, Henry.
Hey.
And this is really special because Henry will give us a very special perspective about AI and our industry because he comes from outside the industry. And I always say, like, it's good to, like hear different perspectives and not stay in our bubble. So, Henry, maybe give us a 1 minute introduction about yourself because I know you're a futurist. I don't see the magic crystal ball, but maybe you can share a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, so my background, I call myself on LinkedIn a reluctant futurist. So because I used to run a consumer trend and innovation firm based out of the Netherlands, but we had a small office. I was based in London. We had a small office in New York and Singapore. And it's funny you mentioned this cross-industry perspective because this was actually, the whole ideology behind this company was exactly as you say, that the best ideas come from outside of your industry, right? So a kind of secret for innovation is this cross-industry perspective. So I've been talking about trends and innovation from this position for nearly 15 years now. But I'm so excited because I left this company and I wrote a book called The Future Normal. So this is why everyone introduces me as a futurist. And we launched this with one of the main keynotes in South by Southwest in Texas a couple of years ago. So, as you can imagine, I've been doing a lot of speaking about trends and innovation.
Nice.
And then, of course, AI happens, right? And the last the last couple of years, when you have a role like mine, everyone's like, okay, tell us about AI. and
Yeah.
and the stuff. Oh.
No, that's not AI.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone ringing. And thought I'd do another stuff. And yeah, so my clients were saying, "Can you tell us about AI?" And at first, I thought I had real imposter syndrome because I'm like, I know nothing about AI. And then I realized, of course, right, really AI is a human story, right? It's of course it's about technology, but it's ultimately about how can we help use technology to do things that we want, people
Yeah.
to do, right? Business, I mean, in an organization, what we want our customers, that we want our audiences to do. And so this is really the lens that I look at AI through, right? How can we help? How can it help us learn faster, connect better? Of course, there's an automation play in there and an efficiency, convenience. It's always important to us. But this is fundamentally my my view on the
Nice.
world. So that's a nice introduction, I hope.
Yeah. Ah, nice. And for whoever doesn't follow Henry yet on LinkedIn, please do so because he shares daily, I think, or like a lot of posts, and they're very interesting to read. And I also saw that you're like speaking a lot, at events, and also sometimes at events for event professionals. um, so whenever you talk to event planners or other event professionals, how do you see the current state of us using AI?
Yeah, it's funny, right, how you get into a little bubble of
Yeah.
series of events. So last year I had to, packaging and cardboard. I did 4 or 5 events in the packaging industry. This year it seems to be event people. Of course, everyone knows event people are the best to do events with because you get really nicely looked after. But look, I think again, said charitably and constructively, I feel that the industry is just not being ambitious enough when it comes
Hmm.
to the vision for AI. Because like I touched on it there, right? And I don't think this is unique to the event industry, right? I think this is kind of the McKinsey, the Bain, the BCGs, right? If you read all their reports, it's so much about efficiency and automation and how much ROI you can get. And we'll come on to ROI in a minute, right? Of course. But I think we can just be so much more ambitious about AI, AI's potential, right? Because yeah, of course, right, it's going to help planners streamline, the research process, the quoting, the RFPs, like all of that stuff, right? We know, but that's the obvious stuff. Right. And it's funny, my co-author, Rohit Bhargava, his company is called the Non-Obvious Company, right? So
Hmm.
it's Non-Obvious Insights. So we always try and as I said, for a slightly detached view, sitting outside the industry, say, what does this really mean for people? Like, what's the potential here? Because if it's just about the technology, it's very boring, right? And then, yeah, of course, we want to have a bit more free time, but what are we going to do with this time? And for me, the things that I get really excited about um, is actually twofold. Number one, the potential to turn events into a real source of creativity and idea generation and tangible business value. And I think that is so exciting, right? I mean, if you're an organization, you're spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to bring people together. And think about how events today and forever, so much of it is people sitting passively, browsing their phones, listening to speakers, right? And look, I'm a speaker. There will always be a place for great speakers, storytellers, right? Hopefully without any PowerPoint slides, right? That sense of inspiration is really important, and I don't think that we'll ever lose that. But in terms of like actual what you gain from an event, I think there's a huge possibility to because we know, right, what is AI really good at? It's good at helping people go from a very early stage seed of an idea to something much more fleshed out very quickly. And it's also really good at synthesizing information, from 50 people at once and pulling out the key themes, right? So my hope is that events in a year or two, realistically probably 3 or 4, imagine you're being a moderator and an MC, panelists, you're able to just have such richer Q&A sessions and much more interactive sessions, because you can actually start to generate things really quickly. So
Yeah.
that's one. And I know maybe we can discuss that and we'll come on to the other one in a minute.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good point. And hello to Arthur here from Toronto. And he's furiously building with AI, and he's loving it. That's good, Arthur. We all like to experiment, and that's what I'm always praising. Like, everybody just try out things and experiment with all the tools that are out there. And everybody else, let us know where you're joining us from. And also, you can let us know like what AI tool you're currently experimenting with, and what do you like to try out next. Just let us know. This should be a very interactive chat, right? And there we go. There we have Daniel joining us. And I'm just curious, where everybody is tuning in, and what AI tool you're currently using. And so, Henry, what you said is a good point, and I think you said 1, 2, maybe longer. Well, let's see. Let's see, because there are tools already out there for these kind of things that can help speakers, like summarizing content, curating Q&A questions. But as often it is about event planners or the speakers as well, like to be brave enough to use these tools, right? Like to be open for it, to be open for them as well. So there are lots of tools out there. There are lots of possibilities, but we need to try it out. We need to be brave enough, right? So you mentioned 1 or 2 years for like these kind of tools for Q&A, moderation, etc. Like, if we think about other tools, like, because now we saw over the years, I mean, me as an event planner, like, we can use AI for like matchmaking, for session suggestions, for suggesting me who to meet, etc. at the events. When do you think this is becoming the standard or like the norm? Because I still rarely see it. It's still unusual, let's say, that an event app has AI, or that event planners are really, really using a lot of AI at the event.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so maybe I'll answer that in a kind of roundabout way, right? Because this is why I'm on this call, was because we met via, I did a session with Skift to their future of AI meetings, and again, as we know, the event industry is all about human connection, and we'll come back to this, because I met Miguel from Skift in IMEX at Vegas, at IMEX in Vegas last year, and how I was there was because I've actually created my own AI creativity app, right? And so basically,
Mm.
who are watching who haven't seen it, What it is I ask people to draw something on a pen and paper, like a quick 1 minute doodle about for events I've done. Imagine the job that event producers will do in 10 years time. I got people to do that. Lots of people drew themselves on a beach, which was fun. But I've done, creative ways to connect people at events. Let's crowdsource some ideas around that. But in more corporate settings, I've done imagine the product you'll be selling in 5 years' time for an office supply group, things like this, right? Um, and then what we do is we take a photo of someone's doodle and use AI to turn their little 1 minute, stick person sketch into a kind of a rich, AI digital graphic. But because I built this last year, I then show all of the images from a whole audience on stage on the big screen. So it's really cool because you have the experience yourself, you see your neighbors, but then you can actually see like what does everyone else in the room with me think about this question that Henry's asked. And the reason why I share that in such detail, right, is because I think it gets to the heart of why I'm so excited about AI, right, as a potential for creativity. Now, I'm literally doing it as an exercise around creativity, right? It's a creative exercise, but I'm talking more like strategic creativity in the context of, so I was having dinner in London with an event producer who I've spoken for in Vegas a few times. And, he was saying to me, look, Henry, I love the keynotes, but we're just not booking as many of these, right, as we used to, 5 years ago, business keynotes. Everything is about bringing people together. Why live? Why together? This is what our clients want, right? And I had this flash of inspiration. I thought I'd written about this feature of turning a doodle into into a richer image. And I thought, I wonder if you can do this, with 500, 1,000 people in a room together, right? Wouldn't that be cool? And anyway, and then I was running a workshop for an agency, and I met this AI developer, and he closed his talk. He was one of the other speakers, and he closed his talk by saying, if you have an idea that starts, wouldn't it be cool if? Then come and talk to us, right? Because it was an internal event. And he said, because look, 5 years ago, the answer was probably no, right? Because, your crazy idea, like it's going to cost us a lot to build it. He said, now the answer is probably yes, right? Because it's so much easier to build this stuff. And so we were in a coffee break, and I said to him, look, I've got this crazy idea, right? I've got this crazy idea of something with this interactive, whole audience thing. Can you help me? And he said, you know what? I think I probably can. Like, I can probably do this literally in a weekend, right? I mean, we're stitching together a couple of APIs. And so, if you told me that I used to run an online business, and let me tell you, working with developers is the worst. Like, I used to hate it, right? Because you always get half of what you want. Like, it would take you twice as long and it would cost you twice as much. Like, it was always a nightmare. And now, I promise you, I got more than I wanted in like half the time, and 20% of the cost. Like, so the reason why I tell everyone on this call, right, is because what I would love to see, and for me, it'd be amazing. I'm not expecting everyone to rush off and go and kind of, create their own AI tool like tomorrow. But I do think this is the kind of mindset that you could be approaching this with, right? And I can see in the chat, lots of people are posting the off-the-shelf tools that they're using, and that's really exciting. And look, there are some amazing tools out there. But where I think this is going, right? If you look, I mean, I had a bit of flexibility. I mean, I'm independent, right? So if I have a crazy idea, I can just experiment with building it. I know not everyone is in this position, but the cost of having an idea to scratch your particular itch, right? Like, and it's funny, when I was connected with the IMEX team, right? I got onto a call with the lady who was running the corporate education session where I was, being proposed. And halfway through, she stopped me and she said, "It's funny, like, I thought you were going to pitch me another event tech AI app, right?" And she said, "This is actually kind of cool." And I said, "No, because I'm a speaker and I just had an idea. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if?" And I was able to build this, right? And look,
Nice.
I'm not going to pretend it's like the glossiest of products, and there's still loads I want to develop
Yeah.
it and build it out. But it has really resonated with people. That's why we're on this call, right? Because you saw it, and there's something. I think there's something in. But I think it comes from a deep understanding of what I, as a speaker, have always imagined. Wouldn't it be cool if we bring in the audience and like get their perspective on where we're going to go next as an industry, as a company, whatever it is. And so I think if everyone takes away one thing from this call, and I know there's just said there's loads of cool tools being shared in the chat, but to think even more ambitiously about, like, you know, if there's a use case that you are closest to your own customers, right, your clients, your audiences, you will have a vision, hopefully, of what might be possible. Wouldn't it be cool if? And
Yeah.
then to come away with, you know, thinking about, is there a way we could do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it's possible.
No, it's nice. And actually, shall we have a quick look at the video? Because you now theoretically talked about your tool, and I found it super, super cool. So let's quickly have a look at the video. It's very short, but it gives everybody a great idea of what you actually do there with the audience. And that's always what I love as an event planner, right? Like engaging, interactive sessions. So let's have a quick look at it, because it is really, really cool.
Everyone feeling like a futurist or a reluctant futurist, a nowist? Everyone ready to dive in to some AI trends?
We've all heard so many keynotes about AI, but no one is actually, or not what we've seen, using AI to reimagine the keynote experience.
They always say never do a live tech demo on stage. So not only am I going to do a live tech demo, I'm going to do a live tech demo with you, where you are going to do the work and I have no idea what's coming next, okay?
So I think to do a live demo where people's ideas are brought to life in a kind of rich, sort of textured, imaginative, bold, ambitious way, I think it's fantastic. I think people now have this sense that it's only really their imagination that can hold them back.
We are going to demonstrate crowd-powered creativity together in this room right here, right now. So sketch an office product from the future. Your drawing can be terrible because you can write a few words on your image as well.
Talking about how AI can be used to basically power human thought and imagination as opposed to replace it.
You made a complicated subject and you've boiled it down into sort of bite-sized pieces, and I think people I've spoken to so far, are going to take away some real great insights as they start to really implement AI into their businesses.
The topic is moving on so fast that even though I've heard you speak before, and I was thinking, it was like, wow, blow me away.
Because you touch the points that everybody is concerned about right now. What is the impact of AI? How can we draw benefit from it? It's about to giving creativity, to inspire, to give a good basis for the people to work on this story. So we can really, starting from the scratch, my skills are terrible in drawing, but it actually gained the level from 1 to 7 thanks to AI.
You gave a couple of examples of creating a new business idea out of a simple drawing, and indeed I can't draw. It's really great, but it's not only that. So there are so many possibilities, and you give great guidance to that because it makes it very practical. We can play with it literally tomorrow or even today.
Nice. And if we look at your website or more closely at this tool, at the end you also like see all the AI generated images, right? Like you ask people, how does the office of the future look like, or something like this. At the Skiff webinar, you ask like, what is the perfect networking, something like this. And then at the end, we saw all the AI generated images. And everybody is like, I can't, like what you saw in the videos, were like, I can't draw. Well, we can all draw somehow. We are not artists, but still, and AI can help us, be more creative or use our creativity onto the next level. So.
Yeah, exactly. And on the point of all of the images, this is the other thing that I'm very excited about, because look, where we are today, right, is this is still a kind of a fun experience, as you heard in the video, right, to humanize AI. And look, I did a session with someone and he said, look, it's been amazing, right? Because he said, you've completely changed the conversation from one of skepticism and fear to one of excitement and possibility, right? So there's definitely a window where just the act of having a fun experience is part of the value proposition. But I'm actually thinking, further ahead, and this is where I think, for people listening on this call, right, what is the future of events? This is where I think it gets really interesting, right? Because what I do, and I haven't quite managed to automate this in real time yet, but what I do is I take, wherever we get 100, 200, 300 images, right, at the end of it. And, and you can, I show them all on the screen, as I said, and you can download, and you start to see common themes coming out anyway,
Yeah,
right? Even when you're
for
just looking
sure.
at them, right? I think when we did it in Skift, a lot of people drew about food, right? Because, food brings people together, and that was a networking experience. A lot of people drew about nature, so you start to see some common threads. But what is really cool is that you can download all the images and then drop them into AI and say, what are the key themes, right? And
Yeah.
so you can say, 50% of people drawing about wellness, 30% of people are drawing about security, or whatever it is, right? So I think it's, and this goes back to what I was saying about the potential for events to become a source of insights, a two-way relationship between the audience and the people on the stage, right? And I think that is the bigger promise of AI at events, because that is ultimately, as I said, if you're a business, we all know, right? Many businesses have customer events, or they client events, they have all hands employee events, right? To be able to source insights from your audience, right? Your whole employee
Yeah.
base. And look, I do it with images because it's more fun, but even text. I mean, I was reading recently about Google DeepMind have trained an LLM. It's a research project at the moment, but it's called the Habermas machine, after the philosopher Jürgen Habermas, which was all about finding common ground in polarized conversations. Right? So they deliberately convene citizens' assemblies around very contentious topics, immigration, healthcare, etc. And then they use AI to synthesize, what
Yeah.
people are saying, and try and create a statement that, essentially kind of everyone can agree with. So I think that's just another example of, we know AI's talent, if you like, to humanize it, right? But the superpower of AI is
Yeah.
synthesizing lots of data and extracting meaningful
It's
information.
so powerful. Yeah, and like for my events and whenever I speak in sessions, I always use Snapside. It's a very good tool to capture the content. And then if you have multiple sessions, it does exactly what you just said as well. It checks like what was most talked about, and then it creates this report of sentiments and trends, and a very good summary of the overall event. So like there are so many good tools out there, but we need to try it out and really use them. And I see that a nice answer from John. He says like we're in the early adapter phase of AI. I probably like in the events industry, I agree. In other industries, maybe we're already further. It is still new, and many are still learning how to use it. Within the next few years, we move into general acceptance phase. And that maybe also comes back to my question, like when is it the standard? And I guess in a couple of years or months, we might not even talk about it anymore. Like we are using AI to do certain things. We're just using something. We
Exactly, right.
just build it in, and nobody will question it anymore.
Yeah, and I have a few thoughts, and I'll quickly address. Sorry, I missed the name because it's gone off the screen. John, was it?
Jonathan.
Yeah, and then I can see a few people asking some technical questions about the app, so I'll come to them in a second. So, yeah, Jonathan, I think one interesting, really interesting opportunity for the event industry is, and look, I'll be the first to say, right, when I do this with, whatever, 150 people, 200 people, when you do the images, like a lot of the time, the outputs are pretty terrible, right? And we're definitely still, and I think Daniel has posted, is it overhyped, right? I think there is a reality with AI that it's, it is unpredictable, and it's not always, that great, right? In terms of the output, the hallucinations, etc. Two thoughts on that. That's why I think AI events is really interesting, because as a multiplayer experience, you get that volume, which means and again, if you see an image, someone said to me, it's fun, it's great because I saw 2 good ideas out of the 100, which will stick in my mind forever, right? And so the impact is really great. So I do think there's something very interesting to me about the multiplayer dimension at events, rather than a single player when you're sitting at your desk, right, or on your mobile phone using ChatGPT. But also the other thing is, just at events, they occupy a kind of special space in people's lives, right? In terms of their mind, it's like when you travel, right? You're much more open-minded. You're out of your day-to-day, right? So I think actually the event industry has a really interesting role to play. I think someone's mentioned privacy, or we talked about it before we came online. Sina, again, like you're much more willing to like give up perhaps a small piece of privacy in the moment because it's a bounded experience, and so again, to get comfortable with the experience of AI, I think the event industry could be a really interesting onboarding ramp for people, right? Again, maybe more in B2C events as well, right? You'll have
I agree.
experiences that if they were in your healthcare app, you're not going to be comfortable with that, but to have a fun experience, an experience,
Yeah,
whether it's a
I
museum or
agree. I agree. And just coming back to the app that you developed, there, Rose and Daniel were asking like, what tools did you use to
Yeah,
build
so
it?
actually, like I touched on, I actually had met this developer. So, and I think that's my experience. I've been playing around with the no code, tools. They're kind of interesting to concept stuff. I'm really grateful that I went with someone who knows what he's doing, because when you're doing it live with, up to 500 people, I really need it to work, right? And so he's optimized it for speed and reliability, and manages the data in a more efficient way. But like in terms of experimenting with a proof of concept, yeah, I think those no code stuff is interesting. But I think again, I joked in the video, right, standing on stage doing a live tech demo where I really want to know it works. So luckily we've done it now. I think it's like 1,600 people so I'm pretty confident it
It
works.
works. If there's good Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe I can see another question from Terry coming in about matchmaking, right? Because I know we're getting to the end, but the other thing that we wanted to talk about, Sina, was around human connection, right? And I think this again is so fascinating for me. So I said creativity was my first big kind of area where I'd urge the event industry to be more ambitious. Then I think human connection is so exciting for me, right? About where this is going to go. And I've written about this a number of times. Again, like the magic of events, we all know this, everyone listening, right, is you get on the plane or train, whatever, after your event, and you feel like excited because you've met someone that can change your professional trajectory, right? And I think that it will always be the motivation for getting on a plane, and as I said, and gathering, right, is to connect with people. And I'll just give one again, because as you've noticed, I like to contextualize these big, lofty ideas in very practical, real world solutions. So some of you may have heard about this app called Boardy, which I'm obsessed by, because it gives you a glimpse of what AI mediated matchmaking can look like. Because I don't know about you guys, but I find the matchmaking in event apps today like abysmally terrible, right? It's just like, I have no idea why people are messaging me. There's no context, right? It's like, is it just because they're in the same city or they have a job? I don't know. It's awful. Anyway, Boardy, to give you an idea, so what happened is basically you can look it up. It's boardy.ai, BOARDY. And it's basically, he's Australian, right? Is the thing now, which will come obvious when I tell you what happens. So basically, you message it on LinkedIn, you DM it your phone number, which felt a bit weird the first time I did it, but they've raised, I think, $8 million from one of the investors of Spotify. So we're hoping they're legitimate, right? So anyway, I messaged it my phone number, and you get a phone call like a few seconds later, and you have a very organic, natural phone call with this AI, and it just asks you like, "Hey Henry, what are you working on? Like what type of people do you want to meet?" And then at the end of that phone call, he asks a few questions. So the reason why they call it Boardy is because it's got an Australian accent, because apparently it tricks your brain to expect a slight delay, like a slight lag in the phone call. So this is what I read anyway. But it's like you forget you're talking to an AI. And then afterwards, it sends you an email. So, and amazing, I'm doing an event tomorrow with a guy I met through this. So this is why I'm so evangelical about this platform. I have no interest in it. It sent me a message saying, right, based on everyone else I've spoken to over the last, months, I think you should meet this guy, Mike. And Mike was you're working on AI and events and how it's going to foster creativity. Mike is he runs an event, an experience agency. He's a British guy. He's moved to LA. He does a lot of big events for brands. Jonathan's asking, is it an international call? In the UK, they have a UK number, and they definitely have a US number. I don't know about every other country. I don't know if they cover every country, but I think some of the bigger markets, they have local numbers. And basically, it sends you a double opt-in email introduction. So Mike got an email, I got an email saying, this is who I think you should meet. If you both reply yes, then I'll connect you, right? And we had this moment where we were like, we exchanged a few messages, and we're like, is this like online dating in the 1990s? Anyway, so we scheduled a 20-minute Zoom because we thought, this is strange. We have no idea. This is the first person I've met via AI. And we were on the phone for 90 minutes, right? We had this
Wow.
amazing chat. It was like, and I liken it to, it's like a Spotify Discover Weekly playlist for people, right? When you first get that and you're like, oh, I kind of like this song. And it's like if your best friend gave you a mixtape, right? And
Yeah.
it was this level of algorithmic curation. Now, they're not focused on events right now. It's just it matches you to anyone it's spoken to. But for me, it's so obvious that if this is where they'll go, I imagine, right? Or someone will build a competitor. Because if you're going to whatever CES in Vegas, right? Imagine like going to the registration desk, having a 5-minute call in the cab on the way there, and like you get out, and then you've got a list of like, these are the 10 people who like are working on the exact same stuff as you. And it's not like you don't have to fill out a form, and it's not blunt matching. It's just you have an open-ended conversation. And again, it goes back to this thing about creativity. Like AI's superpower is extracting information from unstructured data, right? Or one of them. And that ability to have a very natural voice call, and then get, like a very structured, clean email with a person in it. And so for me, I think, the future of events will be this combination, again, using AI to help us do the things that we will always have wanted to do at events, right? Which is connect with meaningful people, like relevant people who can change our lives. And that ability to do that, and to go to, whatever it is, a 10,000, 1,000, 5,000 person conference, but come away with the 12 people, whatever, the coffees that you've had, that you're like, wow, I couldn't, if my best super connector friend had made that connection, I would have walked away happy. And that I think is just amazing, right?
I agree. And that's totally right, coming from an outside the events industry person. And that's amazing. So to wrap up our chat, what tools do you currently use? Because we see in the chat everybody wants to hear about tools. We want to have something else to experiment with tomorrow or this week. So what do you use right now that you're really excited about, besides the one that you just mentioned? But like something, for your daily business life, or like another project that you're working on?
Yeah, so there's probably two that I'm excited about. Again, Granola is my kind of AI crush at the moment. So if it's a note-taking app, and it's just, if you've ever used, I saw someone put Fathom in the chat.
Fathom, yeah.
I thought it was Fathom, but I found the Zoom one really terrible. Like it was just too much to read. This one, again, takes meeting notes like, the best human would, like bullet points, 5 things. It's like really astonishing. So granola.ai, that's my favorite one. And then in terms of like cool stuff I'm seeing at events, the other one that I'm really excited about, I've been talking to these guys in the Netherlands who've created the AI poem booth. So it's like a photo booth experience, but it generates a poem, as a printout, like as a keepsake. Because again, I think it's a really fun expression of this like AI and human connection and creativity, which is the space that I'm most interested in. How do you bring people together? Give them a human experience that integrates technology, and I think that is the opportunity. I mean, that's fun, right? But it's very cool. So those are the two.
Yeah, no, I mean, we like at events, we always need fun as well. So I like that, and I will check it out. A poem booth. That's very interesting. I mean, we have photo booth. We can transform ourselves into superheroes or or something. So now, why not writing a poem? So that's nice. Good.
I think you've touched on something there, which is
great
again,
tips.
maybe a final note to close on, but I think it's quite profound what you've said, and it was always my idea. We had photo booths before, right? And it's this idea that innovation, like the first book I wrote was all about innovation being grounded in basic human needs and wants. And so again, yes, we've got a shiny new technology, but people so often they over focus on the technology and under focus on the stuff that was around forever, right? That we know. So a bit, as you say, having a fun photo booth where you dress up and do cool stuff, like layer some AI on it, and I think you're onto something, and it makes it more accessible.
No, definitely. No, No, and AI can enhance, our needs and what we are trying to achieve. But of course, let's never forget, why we are really meeting, and that's what you said, to make meaningful connections. So, and with that, Henry, thanks so much for joining the chat today. And everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. I'll put the links in the chat to the tools that Henry has mentioned and to his exciting tool as well. Whoever is attending IMEX Frankfurt, he's going to be there. So I'm very excited to meet you in person, Henry, in
I
Frankfurt.
can't wait. Yeah, thank you.
Super nice. No, thanks a lot. And I'll see everybody again next time.